Hi guys, you're welcome to my channel and I'm your girl, the Iseoluwa. So guys, today, before we start, I'm going to be sharing with you I'm not going to cry. I'm going to be sharing with you a very painful ordeal. Welcome to my channel guys, and I'm glad to have you here in my space. Join me. So every time I've been trying to shoot this particular video, something happens. Either NEPA takes the light, or I don't know what it is that happened. But guys, today I was determined that despite all odds, I was going to shoot this particular video. And I started shooting, and I've been shooting for over an hour, only for me to check my camera and see that I've just been talking to the air. It's so painful. I'm trying to hold back the tears, but I promised myself this year that I'm always going to show up regardless of whatever happens. So I'm here guys, I'm showing up for you guys, and these are some of the efforts that goes into making a YouTube video that we never get to share with you guys, and I'm sharing it today because I'm really hurt, but I'm fine. So guys, first of all, before we get into today's video, I'm going to apologize for the previous video. A lot of you came to me and you came to complain about how that you couldn't watch the video. There were issues with the sound, or this that happened. I didn't notice on time, and I didn't know on time. And even after I got the complaints and I watched the video on my end, it was actually, the playback was actually nice. It was okay. But if I got the feedback from a lot of you guys, so I know it's a legit complaint. Some people said they couldn't even watch the video at all. Some people said they had issues with the sound. Some people said there was a glitch in the video. So I sincerely apologize about that, and thank you guys for still watching the video regardless of all the glitch and all the sound issues and all the issues that you guys had. You guys are really the best. I couldn't have wished for a better YouTube community. I couldn't have wished for a better clan. And yes, if you're new here and you don't know me, I'm your favorite girl, the Iseoluwa. On a normal day, if I wasn't feeling bad about what happened, I would have been more cheerful than this. But I'm your favorite girl, Iseoluwa. My name is Iseoluwa. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please kindly subscribe and hit the notification button so you wouldn't miss out on any amazing video. So yes, we're going to continue the review of the journey of an African colony, and in this particular episode, we're going to be reviewing episode 3, 4, and 5 of the journey of an African colony, a documentary by Olashupo Shashere. Yes, a documentary by, it's painful that I have to say all of this again. A documentary by Olashupo Shashere. So yes, it is what it is. We move. Yes, and in this episode, we're going to be doing the review of episode 3. We're going to start from episode 3, which is titled "You Will Never Be Amongst Us." So if you watch the previous YouTube video, where is it? Somewhere. Oh, okay. Here it is. You guys can watch the video. You can watch the video. You're going to see that suggestion at the end of this particular video, or you can first go and watch that video. I'm also going to be adding this particular video to that video as a suggestion at the end of that particular episode, so you can watch either one you want. So yes, and of course this episode is actually going to be a really short one, guys. Before we start, let's quickly do this. I, your favorite girl, the Iseoluwa, promise that in this particular episode of my YouTube video and in this review of the journey of an African colony, I will try to ensure that each review of each episode I'm going to be doing will not be more than 6 minutes. So help me God. So let's get into the review, guys. Episode 3 is titled "You Will Never Be Amongst Us," and in this particular episode, Olashupo Shashere went to Kano to trace the steps of Frederick Lugard and the havoc he wreaked there. And if you watch my previous episode, you're going to know by now that Frederick Lugard is no hero. The amalgamation of Nigeria was just simply out of selfish ambitions. It is not for our interest as a people. as it were. So yes, he went to Kano to trace the steps of Frederick Lugard, because Frederick Lugard at all costs wanted to capture the northern region and join us together as one because of the economic benefits they were going to gain from Nigeria. So in the early 19s, which was 1903, they had already captured some part of the northern regions, which was Bogu, Katangura, and a couple of other places, Bonu, and a couple of other places. However, they were yet to capture Kano. And there were two symbolic cities that we're going to discuss how they captured in this particular episode, Sokoto and Kano. So Sokoto was symbolic. Why? Because it was the head of the Emirates, yeah? And Kano was symbolic because it was a commercial city with about 50,000 population as of that time. And that's quite a lot of people as of that time. Kano was a large city, a commercial city, which had a wall, something like what they have now as the Great Walls of China. Kano had its walls, which dates back to about 1,000 years ago, and the walls were about 50 feet tall and 50 feet wide, and it was built round the city of Kano, and there were 13 different entrances in this walls, interjections at this wall, which were city entrances into Kano. So of course, Lugard wanted to capture Kano because of his selfish interest, and he had the advantage, which was, technology as we know it, ammunitions as we know it. So he had earlier wrote to the Emir of Kano that he was going to come to Kano. They wanted to do whatever. They wanted to establish British rule in Kano, the way they always like to you, that they'll protect your kingdom and all of that. All you just have to do is submit your kingdom to British rule. And of course, the Northerners never wanted anything to do with them, as we know it. So what they simply did was they decided to take Kano by force. So yes, guys, of course, Frederick Lugard, regardless, continued to Kano. And when they got to Kano, they had an advantage. They knew they had the advantage. They had several rifles, and they also had the Maxim gun. They had 2 Maxim guns. This was what they had to say about the Maxim gun. As you guys know, I'll usually show you pictures and all of that. So yes, that's what they had to say about the Maxim gun, that they said they have the Maxim gun. And of course, when they got to Kano, the Maxim gun, as it were, was the latest technology of the time. And of course, when they got to Kano, in the space of 3 days, they killed over 200 soldiers. Later, eventually, Kano had to succumb and, allow itself to be captured. At the time we went to Kano, the Emir of Kano unfortunately was not around, because fortunately for him, and unfortunately in a way, he wasn't around. He was in Sokoto. He went for a reconciliation meeting in Sokoto. And, after they had captured Kano, of course, they headed to Sokoto. And prior to that time also, they had sent a letter to the Emir of Sokoto, who had vowed that if they came to Sokoto, it was going to be war, because they were not ready to have unbelievers, as they called them, non-Muslims among themselves. And that's where the title came from. You will never be amongst us. When they got to Sokoto, the Emir of Sokoto, Emir Atairu, was ready for them. However, he also didn't have the advantage, because of course the British guys had the advantage. They had rifles, they had the Maxim guns. They had 2 of the Maxim guns, you can imagine. And all they had were I think in Sokoto this time, they had about 1,500 soldiers on horsebacks, and they had about 2,000 that were not on horsebacks, but were armed and also ready to fight. And also another thing the British British soldiers had were they had armors, and they had shields to shield themselves from the arrows and all of that. So of course you can see that they really had the advantage. And of course when the war in Kano ensued, they won, of course, after about another 3 to 4 days. And the Emir of Sokoto fled from Sokoto. He left with the other, with some other people. I think he fled with the Emir of Kano and other people, warriors and all of that, and they fled to Bauchi. Lugard didn't just leave it at that. He followed them all the way from Sokoto to Bauchi. And when they entered into Bauchi, they entered into the boundaries. They were killed in Bauchi. They were all killed. About, I think, 200 and something people of them were killed in Bauchi. And of course, they also captured Bauchi. And they soon moved on and spread across the northern region and captured the whole of the northern region. So of course, when they had captured the northern region, and it was time to bring the all three regions together. They sought for a name. And how did Nigerian get its name? So the name Nigeria comes from, as a lot of people say, Niger area. But where did the word Niger come from? The word Niger actually comes from, I think, the Latin word nigri. Yeah, I think that was how it was pronounced by that philosopher in the documentary, nigri, which actually is a name used for black people, black-skinned people. It's similar to the word you know today as nigger or Negroes. Yes, Negroes, what we're referred to as Negroes and niggers, which is an insultive word, as it were. It's actually where Nigeria got its name from. So they just named it niggers area. Actually, guess who named Nigeria? Freddie Lugard's then girlfriend, Flora Shaw, who later of course became his wife, was the one who named Nigeria what Nigeria is today. Those people, they really played with us, they really toyed with us. And in this documentary, Olasupo Shashere talked about how that, somebody forgot to actually change the name of Nigeria, along with a lot of things that, they forgot to change. And, it was watching this video that I realized that Zimbabwe under colonial rule was named Rhodesia under colonial rule. But, after they got their independence, they changed it because these names were actually ridiculous names that were, as it were, intended to ridicule the black societies and communities, as it were. And it wasn't only Zimbabwe and other African countries changed their names from what the British, from what they had under the British rule and what the British colonies gave them. But however, somebody somewhere forgot to change Nigeria's name. Such a pity. And episode 4 of the Journey of an African Colony is titled The Protest and the Women's War. So in this particular episode, Olasupo Shashere widely explored the role that women played in the emergence of Nigeria as an African colony. And I would, if you'd agree with me, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So of course, we're going to start from, how that oil was discovered in Nigeria in the early 19th, as early as 1903. I think, yes, and I think they started processing oils in Nigeria as early as 1906. That was when they started, processing oils, and they had oil rigs and everything. And the man who discovered oil in Nigeria, he's a British scientist who went about all the African colonies looking for oil in the countries, in the colonies, as it were. And of course, when he got to the south in Nigeria, he saw that, there was oil. He told the British colony, however, he informed them that, there's oil here, we can develop an oil industry. But Frederick Lugard and the British colony were not interested in developing any industries in Nigeria or in any of their colonies, because of course they wanted us underdeveloped. And, because they were not interested in developing industries, all we had in Nigeria was the farm produce and, our own local businesses. And guess what? They started taxing. They introduced taxes. So they were taxing innocent Nigerians on every single thing they produce, every single thing they sell. But where the issue came was when they now decided to tax women. The women decided that they were not going to take it. And in this documentary also, Olasupo Shashere explored how that, we talked about it in the previous episode, how that, the Britain were very detailed, and they were specific in how they documented the history of Nigeria and everything that happened under the British colonial rule, because of the havoc they wreaked, the extent of the havoc they wreaked. Nigeria was the place where they had the largest influence, where they did the most terrible things. You guys are going to see the statistics of how many slaves were taken from Nigeria in the previous episode. It's just so heartbreaking. And how they named and documented events, you also see this. So guess what? They named it the Aba Women's Riot, Aba Market Women's Riot, because they wanted to, as it were, make it seem like it was a riot of uneducated, uninformed women. But no, it wasn't. And the riot didn't actually start out in Aba, but Aba was just a significant place in the riot. The riot started out in Uloku, an eastern community, which is also not far from Owerri. That was where the riot started. They started sending out officials to go into women's kitchens and their homes to count how many pots they had, how many barrels of camels they had, and all of that, so they could know how much they were going to be charging each woman for tax. And when they started, the women in Uloku revolted, and of course they went to the office of the government office that was at local, and they went to express their displeasure. Unfortunately, before they did that, they had sent words to women in neighboring communities with palm fronds, palm leaves, and palm kernels, and how they used to send all those symbolic messages. And so even when they had said in local that okay, it's fine, the taxation of women will not go on. Unfortunately, words had gotten out to other neighboring communities that they were now taxing women and all of that. And unfortunately for the British guys, there was no technology on the part of the Nigerians, of the Africans as it were. So it was not easy to just send a text message that they said we are not paying tax again. No, it's fine. You guys can now relax. So, but once had gone out and women started rioting, market women, not just market women, every woman started rioting. That was what happened. And initially the riot was very, very peaceful. Of course, how it starts out, the riot was peaceful until when in one of the communities where the women were rioting, the news had gotten to, so according to this documentary, within 24 hours, within a day, the news of the taxation of women had traveled about 2,300 kilometers, even without technology. Just by sending signs and symbols, it had traveled that far. Of course, as at that time, there were buses, there were what do they call, jalopy, something like that, because I saw something like that in the videos, in the documentary. So of course there were already stuff like that. So yes, women had already started rioting in several communities, and in one of the communities where the women went to riot and they went to meet one of the British colonialists, they went to block his car and they said they won't let him go until he decrees that there is no taxation against women. But of course, because he was the way they used to be, he drove past the troop of women, knocking down 3, leaving 1 dead and 2 injured, 2 severely injured. And that was what aggravated the women in different parts of the country, as it were. And the riot became really, really, really brutal. And in Owerri, I think that was where the major incident happened, where so what the colonialists did was they were sending telegrams to themselves. They were telegram then. They were sending telegrams to themselves, informing themselves that the women here are rioting. Try to ensure that you gain grounds in your community and they don't take charge and everything. So when this happened, the women were aggravated. They were angry, of course. They started burning government infrastructures, courtrooms, any government facility they could have access to. They started burning them down. And the government, as it were, was I think when they got to Owerri, when they got to Owerri, the colonialist in Owerri, or the consul general or whatever that was in Owerri, asked them that, are you going to stop your protest or should we shoot? And guess what happened, guys? They shot at them. And they killed 54 women, leaving 59 injured, 1 man accidentally killed, and 1 man accidentally injured. And guess what, guys? When the trial started in court, they did the first trial. Of course they won. The second trial, they won again, of course. And guess what they had to say? What the British colony had to say in the second trial? They said, it is sad and it is unfortunate what happened in Aba. However, it was necessary for them to shoot at women and to kill them. So you can see that the issue of police brutality started way long ago. For episode 5 is titled, I Will Die for My Country. And Olashukwu Shashore mentioned the reason why he titled this particular episode so in his opening speech in the documentary in this particular episode. So I can't tell you everything that happens, like I said earlier, so you're going to have to watch the documentary. But we're going to start from also we're also going to still be exploring the role that women played in the emerging of Nigeria as an African colony. So in 1939, after the outbreak of the Second World War, Britain they didn't have enough manpower, they didn't have enough resources, as it were, to sustain themselves in the war. They started recruiting soldiers from Africa, from their colonies in Africa. They recruited about 250,000 men from Africa, out of which 120,000 were from Nigeria. So you can see why they really tried to hide our history from us, because they really did a lot. And this was not all. They were forcing men to join their army. They were enlisting men forcefully into their army. But not just that. They dedicated every single produce that was coming from Nigeria, our food produce, our cocoa, our everything that we produced. They dedicated it to the Second World War, to support themselves, to feed their country, the people that were left in their homeland, and to also feed their soldiers that were in the war. So of course, everything, they started producing mercenaries in Nigeria. They were taking it into the war and into their country. So the total number of volunteers they actually had from Nigeria was 200,000 volunteers that they claimed to have, even though it was a lie. Because according to a British journalist, this was what he had to say. He said severe pressure and coercion was used on a wild scale to enlist men in the army. So of course, this was even said by their own. So that it's not we making it up. So only 120,000 were enlisted in the army, but altogether, all the volunteers they had from Nigeria were 200,000 volunteers. Don't forget that. And these were people that they coerced. So according to that journalist, he said that basically what they did was they will go and meet village heads and traditional rulers, and they'll say, if you don't give us this amount of people to be enlisted in our army, we will take your children and your family members to be enlisted in the army. So yes, going to the role that women played, Alaja Alimotu Pelewura was an outstanding woman when it comes to the story of the emerging of an African colony. And it really gladdens my heart to see that women played major roles in the emerging of Nigeria as an African colony. So yes, Pelewura was the head of the market women, Jaloja as we call it, Alaga, that's what they call her, because she preceded over 16 markets within Lagos and outside. So she was a renowned, activist in that time. She was arrested for leading a protest when the market was okay. So usually the markets were basically in remote areas and all of that. But it got to a point, because of the famine and everything, they had to move. They now decided to move market into cities, and also to do what they called rationing, where only certain kind of people could get certain kind of food. The gari was meant for the interlands and for the poor people, where certain foods were now meant for the rich people and all of them. So guess what? Pelewura and the other market association people, what they did was they created night markets and secret markets where they were selling at their own regulated prices. So this was not just a protest against the government, but also a protest against price regulation, because the government started regulating the prices of food items and the prices items were to be sold in marketplaces, which they were not okay with, and they decided to riot. Yes, Pelewura, they decided to riot by creating night markets where they were selling at their own prices, and secret markets where they were selling at their own prices. And also what they did was they sneaked all the food. So the government said, certain food should be sold in certain cities, certain food should be sold in remote areas. But what they did was they ensured that every food circulated in every city and every remote area. They sneaked them into places, and they were selling at their own prices. So what they did was, during the day, when they could be monitored, they were selling normal prices that government said they should sell. So people that could afford it at that time will go and buy. But at the night times and at the secret meeting places where most people were buying their stores, because Pelewura vowed that I would not die of hunger in the country of my birth. And of course, because of that inspired what they were doing. Also, Pelewura was, an activist, like I said earlier. She formed close relationships with Abba Macaulay. You all know Abba Macaulay. Abba Macaulay is the grandson of Ajayi Crowther. And Abba Macaulay is a pressman. He started working as a pressman in Britain, and he came to Nigeria, bought over his own newspaper company, I think Daily Times. And we're also going to be exploring how that the press actually played a very, very major role in the emergence of Nigeria as an African colony. So Guess what Pelewura did? So again, they introduced taxes for women. They said women who were earning up to £50,000 yearly should start paying a certain amount of tax. So guess what Pelewura did? She called for a meeting with the British colony, as it were. She called for a meeting with the Consul General, what did they call them as a then? And they responded to her, of course. She said she asked Abba Macaulay with his newspaper to inform the government that there will be a meeting at the town's hall. She gave them a date. And guess what? The government didn't just show up because they knew how powerful she was. They showed up, but a crowd of about over 7,000 people also showed up to support her and the other women. Isn't that amazing? I'm proud in my fellow women. Isn't that amazing? So guess what happened? When the meeting started, the first person to open the meeting was the Consul General. And he said that English women in England pay tax. He does not see any reason why Nigerian women should not pay tax. And guess what Pelewura did? Because of course she was not pleased with this. She said that if women are to pay tax, then women must be included in the decision making of Nigeria as a country. And that was how she won the battle. She said women must be included in public administration if women are to pay taxes. And of course, guess what they did? Because the general didn't want to make it obvious that they won. So they said anyone that was earning over £200,000, which no women or which even as at that time, according to the documentary, like nobody was actually earning up to that amount. So of course it was a victory for Pelewura and the other women and the market women, and that went on. So the press played a very vital role in the emerging of Nigeria as an African colony. I think I find that I like saying that statement a lot, in the emerging of Nigeria as an African colony. So the press played a vital role. What role did it play? Literacy, information, and opposition. They served as an opposition for the colonial rule. They served as the watchdog, as we will call them. And they according to the documentary, you will see how that they were oral press. So they had a congregation of pressmen. They had like a community, like a union of pressmen. There was the oral press, there was the print press, and all of that. And their role was to inform people, to educate them, to teach them literacy, how to read and write Yoruba. I learned that the press played a major role in ensuring that people could read and write their own languages, that people, were informed about, what things ought to be like, the order of things now and what they ought to be like. And of course, there were a couple of remarkable people that stood out in this era. And also another role that the press ensured that they played was they ensured that every single movement and agitation against the colonial rule was well backed up by the press. So they gave them all the support they needed. All you needed to do was to move against the British rule, as it were, the colonial rule, as it were, and all the press would be against you, supporting you. So people like Nnamdi Azikiwe, Bafemi Awolowo, Abba Macaulay, and all of them, they had the full support of the press in all they did. Yeah, so basically that's the review of episode 5. So you guys, you know what to watch out for when you're watching the review. And if you're not privileged to watch the review, there you have it. Those were the things that were explored in the review. So thank you guys for choosing to stay with your girl through the review. Thank you guys for watching my video, Jare. Don't mind me, I don't like speaking big English. Thank you guys for watching my video. If you're not yet subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. Yes, subscribe and hit the notification button so you wouldn't miss out on any of my amazing videos. If you like this particular video, don't forget to thumbs it up, comment, and please share my videos on your social media platforms, on your WhatsApp statuses, on your Instagram pages, on your Facebook, on your Twitter, on whatever social media platform you're on. So please support the girl, support the girl, support the girl, support the girl. And till I see you soon, you guys, I'm going to be showing you how I set up my new light setup. I'm going to be showing you how I did my DIY light setup. Yeah, my DIY light setup. I'm also going to be, moving on. Yeah, like I said. Yeah, moving on, guys. This year I'm going to be having a lot of people on this YouTube channel, so you might want to watch out for this space, because we're going to have a lot of discussions and conversations. I cannot even wait to bring it to you. Don't worry, I'll bring it to you, but I can't wait to do that. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for staying tuned, and till I see you soon again. Till I see you very, very soon again. Bye, guys.